I don't know if both of you know, you probably do, but there was a remake of MediEvil, which is like a old PS1 game. And on the actual game disc, I believe, or it could, I'm not sure if it's on the game disc or if it's part of an update you download for the game, but there's a PS1 emulator built into the game, which allows you to play the PS1 version of the game on the PS4. So this is a guy, Man Fight Dragon. He's on Twitter, and he posted this video of him actually running Silent Hill on his PS4 using this emulator that was found in the MediEvil Remake. So me personally, I get excited when I see things like this because, for one, it brings more life to the console itself after the console's dead and Sony moves on, because now it gives the possibility for people to use it to play PS1 games. And two, it makes me question, are there other games out there that have emulators that we don't know about? Like, does Sony already have PS1, PS2, and PS3 emulators for the PS4? Um, and is this a viable strategy for kind of doing backwards compatibility? I mean, what do you say, John?
I mean, it's definitely interesting. I didn't know about this news until just minutes before this taping when you told me about it. Um, yeah, I'd like to see people out there just kind of hack away and find these hidden emulators. As far as if this is the future where they just kind of pack in these games, I doubt it. I feel like there's money to be made here, and when there's money to be made, these companies are going to find a way to make it, and so they'll probably set up some kind of like a virtual shop where they can sell these. And I think that's been sort of the agreed upon sort of way that the industry is moving forward with these legacy games.
Yeah. What about you, Josie?
We went back and forth on this, and I personally wasn't too impressed, mostly because the emulation is through the software, through the video game itself. It's not actually on the PS4 itself, which I thought that initially that was the case. So, I mean, if anything, it will affect only a select few of people that would even hack the system just to do that.
Yeah.
That being the case, I'm actually disappointed that PlayStation 4, unlike the PlayStation 3 and every PlayStation before it, can't play PlayStation 1 games. And I think the reason being is that they just don't have, or they didn't put the upscaling technology to reduce any kind of lag, and especially input lag, and to solidify the frame rate and the aspect ratio and how these games are presented on HD televisions. So it seems like a poor substitute from maybe purchasing a what's it called, the OSSC, any kind of scale upscaler that can really improve the way older consoles show their content on HD television.
Yeah.
And also at the same time reducing input latency.
Yeah. So, and also you and me had covered before that there's a belief from those uncovered patents that Sony's actually going to do all their emulation on the cloud, which you and me think is not a good idea because it introduces another level of lag that players have to deal with.
Exactly.
But I want to hear from John because I know you're a big digital gamer. What do you think? Do you think that you would be interested in kind of like a cloud version of emulation where you could hook up your PS5 and buy some PS1 games, PS2 games, and it would run in the cloud? I mean, would that be as long as it ran well? Obviously that's important. But would you be interested in that? Because I know you're a digital guy.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely a digital guy, but I also have physical content as
Mhm.
well, and I'm not ready to completely divorce myself from physical content just yet, just because of the limitations and the infrastructure that we have right now in the U.S. Not all places have really fast internet, so it's not completely viable just yet. As far as having access to these types of legacy games in the cloud, I'm all for it. That's one of the main reasons why I'm actually interested in the Xbox Series X and their Game Pass and the X Cloud, which is a topic I'm sure we're going to address either later on today or at some other point. But yeah, having access to those games. Correct me if I'm wrong. These older games are simpler or not as complex as modern games, so it might be easier to stream those. Am I wrong there?
No, no, you're right. So the game files are very small, and the obviously the computing power needed is much less. But I think Josie brought up a good point. Is that a lot of the issue when you're playing older games on newer televisions is the scaling. And so, for example, I mean, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that it's better to scale up a PlayStation 1 game, which you would scale up to uh, 480p, and then it's easier, or it's not easier, it's better to scale that into 720p because something about the integer scaling, I'm not an expert here, but it just looks better at 720p. And obviously, if you're trying to play an old PlayStation 1 game in 4K on like a PS4 Pro, it's just not going to look that great. So yeah, that's a good point Josie made.
Well, one thing I can agree with you, Gio, or that you would probably agree with me, is no one wants that kind of information. They should head to the YouTube channel My Life in Gaming. They
Yeah,
they they it's up when it comes to the older school consoles and playing them on current television sets. And then one
yeah,
thing that I like to say, a note that I agree with John, and I think you'd agree too, is that access to these games, I believe, is important. And having not just access, but allowing you to sustain the availability of these games is just as important for people to actually play them, because that's why the retro market is so insane, is because you can't play these games on a current generation console. You have to have like a GameCube in order to play something like Piano 3 or something.
yeah.
That's a bad example, but you have to have a place to play a game like, I'm gonna go ahead and say like Lunar One or something. I don't know if it's available on PlayStation Network, but the PlayStation Network and the Wii U, Wii Shop by extension, they all had these games available. But now that all these companies are seeing the viability of retro games and trying to get their piece of the pie and selling their own version of the game, whether it be in a collection or by itself via an eShop, it's really severely limiting, and people don't know what people want, or publishers don't know what people want, because people want everything.
Yeah, yeah, and you're right. The availability of the game trumps all. And
Mm-hmm.
if it's a game that maybe it runs a little bit slower or whatever, but just being able to play it is the most important thing. So yeah, I do agree
Yeah,
with you there.
the only medium uh, where their content is locked in the past. If you don't have access to those consoles, you look at like TV shows and movies. You can get that content anywhere. You can watch I Love Lucy from the '50s on your TV now if you wanted to,
Yeah,
and it's you can't say the same thing. I can't play Piano 3 from the GameCube.
no,
I can't play Beautiful Joe unless I had a GameCube.
yeah,
Bringing those games back and giving them new life is important for not just the game but for the industry as well.
yeah. No, you're completely right. And I mean, let's let's get really obscure here. I mean, I the TurboGrafx 16 Mini. When that came out, that's my favorite retro mini console because getting your hands first of all getting your hands on a TurboGrafx 16 or a PC engine that works well is expensive. Then just getting the cartridges for those things is super expensive. So yeah, I mean, come on, like
Shooters, shmups.
people. Hey Josie, am I wrong here? But would people lose their mind if Sega made a Sega Saturn Mini? Tell me
Oh,
that would not be
hell yeah.
amazing.
Hell yes. I mean, people are at least from what I've heard. I can't speak for everyone, but people are interested in a Nintendo 64 mini.
Yeah.
And Nintendo 64 doesn't have a lot of great games. No offense.
Smash 64, that's a good game.
Paper Mario, Mario 64, which Mario 64 now runs better. I like the DS version, but I don't know if it runs better.
Yeah.
It does run better.
Huh?
It does run better on the DS. Funny enough, is the definitive way to play Super Mario 64.
Yeah. But still, GoldenEye. There's tons of little classics that you can play on the Nintendo 64 that people are actually hampering for. They want it.
Yeah.
So Sega Saturn. There's so many games that are locked behind that console.
Yeah. And if they did it,
let alone Sega CD.
Yeah, Sega
32X.
32X. No.
All of those. Put the hits on all of those in one console. I'd get that.
Yeah.
I actually
100%. Both good games on the 32X. I get those.
Yeah. I actually okay, you want to hear something crazy? And I just found out about this, but there was like a weird Super Nintendo. I think it was a Super Nintendo. I'm mistaken, but it was like their version of like a 32X or something. Is there something like that, Josie, or am I making it up?
64DD.
I think you're making it up.
Okay. I'm trying to think.
Japan had a 64DD expansion pack that was Japan only. And
that was for the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, and then Nintendo had this Satellaview, which was like their first foray into online gaming, which I believe was Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Japan only, of course. So yeah, this was way before online gaming was remotely viable.
Yeah.
But in a smaller market like Japan, it was close to being viable. Yeah, I think that's what it was.
And even
I still want a TurboGrafx 16 Mini, but that's a good example in that hardware is incredibly hard to find.
it is.
It's not even that's not even available. But if it was available digitally, then you'd have access to it no matter the hardware.
Yeah. And let me say, I did a super comprehensive review of the TurboGrafx 16 Mini. So if anyone wants to see that, I fully recommend getting that thing because it's got some awesome games on it. It really does.
Hey, Neil, where can I find that video?
At gamesibeat at this channel right here.
Put the link below.